to get started. Let's start with roll call.
Mary Boyd.
Here.
Tom Gavick.
Here.
Kim Flom.
Here.
Ryan Jennings.
Here.
Maya Romboy. Brent Felchlin. Rich Starry.
Here.
All right. Let's go to approval of minutes of our September 30th bid board meeting. Those were included in the packet online. Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second by Rich. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. We're going to just open up the floor. Any public comments? Actually, I'm going to use this moment to just welcome Gretchen.
Thank you.
Can I have Gretchen just introduce herself?
Yeah.
Is that okay? Gretchen, could you just introduce yourself? This is super exciting to have you back into Pier and here full time, but give us a quick overview.
Thank you. My husband would have loved to be here as well, but he's waiting on FedEx deliveries at the building. We're planning on opening Scotty Dog's Pub. He's from Scotland. That's the Scotty. We worked for Disney on Ice as professional figure skating performers for over 20 years, and we've chosen to Pier for the welcoming community that is here, and we're really excited to be here.
That's awesome. And you said you're going to be living upstairs in the apartment.
We do, yeah.
And so welcome to De Pere.
I
And
figure out how to turn the furnace on.
it is that time of year.
It's there. Yeah.
Thank you for the investment that you and your husband are making
Thank
in
you.
downtown De Pere.
Thank
And
you for
welcome.
being welcoming.
Yeah.
Tom, I want to give a big kudos to Gretchen and her husband. So, you know, with new establishments, we have to do all the inspections, right? And the health ones, sometimes our health inspector gets a little nervous because a lot of times new business owners will do renovations, but they don't know the health code. And so it's like, oh, I didn't know I had to have a 3-thing sink versus a 2. Trisha was like, this place was amazing. They knew everything. They had like everything done way above and beyond. So huge kudos for that.
I don't deserve credit for that because I don't know, but Pat Drury does, and he took care of us. So.
Yeah,
Well
that's
done.
a Great job. Yeah. Great. All right. Item 4. We do an election of officers every year. So, Rich, you're going to nominate me.
I would nominate Tom for president.
Okay. And I'm going to nominate Rich as our vice chair and Kim as our secretary. Any comment on that? If not, I'm making a motion to approve that re-election of officers.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. There we go. We got elections for another year. Okay. Item 5 is discuss meeting structure. And I'm gonna look to my colleagues to see if they have a PowerPoint slide that they could throw up of the meeting structure. There it is. So at our September sort of pre-planning meeting for the annual meeting, we rolled out this structure of meeting. And I think this is going to be super helpful to just have like a regular rhythm with regular sort of focus of what's going to happen at each of the meetings. This will continue to be our annual meeting window of time. That's critical because it aligns with tax assessments already being done. We get that information, we can include that in our budget, and then we can also have that prepared to send to council for approval at their early November meeting. So that October meeting is super critical as a placeholder to just put that into place. Then we thought 3 other meetings made sense. So we're going to do a March meeting. We haven't set the actual time yet, but we'll do that so that we can actually get it on people's calendars, and maybe we just do a regular day of the week that works for everybody. But we'll continue, that March meeting will be our big sort of year in review period. We got out of sync with that a little bit too with Tina and definitely Napier, where it felt like we were doing all of that at this meeting, and it felt super weird because we were like a year behind, and the budgeting wasn't lining up appropriately. So this will give Tina a great opportunity to sort of wrap up a year in review of the calendar year, and then at our March meeting give us an update of in this case, it'll be 2025, like how do we do in 2025? Good discussion around that. Hopefully that'll generate some ideas and things that we can identify that we could say, okay, well, we've already approved our 2026 plan, but here's a particular area that we'd like to focus in based on how 25 went. And we'll identify those 1 or 2 items, put some small teams around that, and then use that as our June opportunity. So then in June, we would just use that as an opportunity to review the current plan, how is everything going, and then really use that as that small group time to lean into a particular topic that we might want to, that we will want to go into depth on and may even need some additional research. And that would then inform starting to think already about the next year's plan, but inform our meeting in September. September, again, would be a review of our current plan, how's everything going? But then that meeting's focus would be all about getting our draft DBID operating plan in place for the next year. I think that rhythm is going to get, I think that it just feels really good. We had some good conversation about that, but I want to just open it up both to the board and or anybody. Any comments, questions, thoughts, ideas on that meeting structure going forward?
I think it lays out a really good framework to keep the bid board engaged and to keep forward momentum on the objectives. So I appreciate it.
They lied.
Yes.
I'm sorry, you guys aren't going to have to pay anything. Yeah, I think it's going to give us a
They didn't like you talking.
Apparently the building does not like the
good
idea.
focus. Yeah, and that's going to hold, I think, us accountable as a board and me accountable as a chair to say, okay, there's some things that we can do in between each one of these meetings. And so what is that? How do we get prepared for the next one? And then I would just say as an umbrella across all of this, in the last 2 to 3 years, we've had meetings and we've had anywhere from 10 to 20 building owners actually come and participate. And we've got, nearly 100 buildings and probably 20 to 30 solid building owners in our downtown. So this is also going to be that opportunity to welcome new building owners, but also just engage and get to know each other and talk as bid members informally, like what do we want to continue to do to improve our downtown. And it'll be, again, good opportunities for Tina to be able to give quick updates on how things are going with the execution of our current plan as well. All right, no action on this. It was more for information to share that this is our structure. So we'll plan to see everybody in March, and I will get that date nailed down and out to everybody soon enough so that we have it on everybody's calendar. Okay, that's it on meeting structure. Next item is our 25 plan highlights, and I had just asked Tina if she could just give a few updates on things. And I think we have a PowerPoint slide.
Well, they're in the packet, right?
They're in the packet.
Okay.
Yep.
I was like, I don't think I have slides.
Sorry.
All right, I'll pull this up.
It's just a couple slides.
Yeah, so I'll let you know when to switch. So I'll just start with a quick overview of the focus for our district. So our goals are centered on making downtown a vibrant destination that attracts more visitors and residents, supporting business growth, private investment, and key niche development, and enhancing the district through placemaking, public art, and events. We're also focused on improving public spaces, promoting walkability and bikeability, and encouraging redevelopment while preserving the unique charm and character that makes downtown De Pere special. Next slide. Yeah, and I didn't realize this would be so small. I don't expect you to read it, but you do have it in your packet. So I just wanted to share a snapshot of what we've accomplished over the past year. In the business support category, we've maintained a comprehensive building and business database. We've offered one-on-one technical assistance and helped connect businesses to grant opportunities and the facade and historic tax credit programs. We've also conducted retention surveys and welcomed several new businesses to downtown. On the marketing and branding side, we continued promoting downtown as a destination through a coordinating marketing strategy. We produced and distributed the new Downtown DPR Guide. We expanded communication through newsletters, press releases, and social media, and really built momentum around the events that attract visitors year-round. Public realm improvements this past year included the completion of the Urban Forest Walkway, our continued beautification efforts through the Beautification Committee, and just overall expanding the public art installations that make downtown spaces inviting and engaging. Special events remained a major driver of energy and foot traffic in our downtown, from our Sip and Shop and Foodie Walk in the spring to Farmers Market, Art Night, Music on the Plaza, and Tour de Pier in the summer, to favorites like Soup Walk, Trick or Treat, and our Winter Holiday and Small Business celebrations. I'm going fast. On the operations side, we manage the downtown snow removal program. We collaborate closely with the City of De Pere and the De Pere Chamber on key initiatives like the State of De Pere and the annual Business Walk, and aligned our planning and budgeting around city priorities. And looking ahead, we'll continue to strengthen downtown's vitality and growth. We'll continue to enhance our marketing and communications, expand creative placemaking and cultural programming, and support the targeted development opportunities. And finally, next slide. Just a quick look by the numbers, a snapshot of downtown's measurable impact. I'm using the fiscal year 24-25. That aligns with our reporting to Wisconsin Main Street, and their fiscal year is July 1st. To June 30th. So we welcomed more than 18 businesses, but the metrics is 18 net new businesses. We saw 20 properties improved, representing $5.9 million in private investment. Our volunteer hours contributed over 1,700, valued at more than $50,000. And through 14 major events, we brought more than 56,000 people downtown. So really driving that community connection and economic activity for our local businesses. So these numbers reflect the collaborative effort of our businesses, our volunteers, our partners. So we're really excited about that growing momentum that continues to define our downtown. So in summary, I think downtown in 2025, it was definitely a year of continued progress and collaboration we have visible results across all of downtown. And we're really grateful for the partnership that we have with the bid board, as well as the City of De Pere and our businesses and our volunteers that make all of these successes possible. So we're looking forward to carrying this on in 2026. Thank you.
Thanks, Tina. I just want to open it up for any questions of Tina. And then I didn't give this warning, so I'm going to give you like a minute worth of prep. Any other updates that are going on that are relevant to our downtown? I might call on Dan and Quason and Kim, but any questions for Tina just on progress in 25 related to our operating plan?
Thanks. Keep up the great work.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tina. Just as a reminder, and I'll go over this as we get into our 26 operating plan. So our 25 operating plan is intact and will continue intact through the end of this year. And actually, we're going to keep those activities sort of highlighted through the first quarter of 26 as we sort of refresh and prioritize activities for the 26 plan. So this will stay intact until our meeting in March. So thank you. Also, we didn't do a formal welcome of Kim, to the bid board, but you've had a number of welcomes to the city of De Pere. But Kim, thank you so much for not only taking this chair. We had enough of Larry, so that it's just super fresh to have, fresh face. But I would say even more importantly, fresh ideas and experiences, from other communities that it's going to be super helpful for the city. So welcome to the board and welcome to De Pere, back to De Pere.
No, the pleasure is mine. Super grateful to be in the seat. Thank you.
What's been a huge highlight in our downtown for you since you've been back?
So it's always the people for me. I think the people are the heart of it. So, the folks that make up our downtown are so special. And it resonated when I was doing the business walk this year. And I was lucky enough to get the west side of downtown. And the game trade place in particular, the owner there just talked about how much he loved being in the downtown, how all the business owners, they know each other, they have a network, they have a community, they have a sense of belonging, and that's what keeps him here, and he loves that space. And so that really resonates with me. Just seeing the business mix continue to grow is very exciting. Of course, seeing the Shopko redevelopment site underway, there's a lot of energy in downtown De Pere, and it's just exciting to see.
Great, thank you. Again, I didn't prep you guys, but can you each give us what's a highlight in our downtown this last year so far?
Well, I'm going to leave place into the small business stuff. I'll touch base on, I guess you'd say, the stuff you see coming out of the ground, I guess you'd say. So obviously underway with the two large groundbreakings for 550 West William Street. I don't believe there's any tenants on the first floor yet signed, but we are working on a regular basis in communication with the developer, sending people his way to try to get that space leased up. We were close on a couple of them, but just other spaces came available for some individuals, and they went and kind of looked at something different. And then obviously with the hotel all under construction as well. It's great to see that coming to fruition. And then the next is the parking ramp. And so there's the next component to it. And so last week we went through the bid openings for the parking ramp to help facilitate this entire redevelopment. And so I think it's exciting to see that project also come forward, and you're going to start to see some of the renderings come out. But let you know that the city took it on as a very big challenge to make sure this doesn't look like a parking ramp. It looks like a building that belongs into our downtown. And I think that's a great feat that we're doing. So it's a partnership with the tax increment district, with the developers to make this project work. So I've never thought I'd say I'm excited for a parking ramp, but I'm also saying I'm excited to not have to manage a parking ramp project again as soon as this is done. But in general,
at least for a little while.
Yeah. Fair enough. So some great stuff there. And then as we move over towards the west side, while we may not see a lot of big projects coming out of the ground, Koyson and Tina have been doing a great job, and I'll let them kind of speak on some of the businesses that have been filling the spaces, including one that, Tom, that you were very vital in bringing to our downtown. So I'll let those guys touch on those components. There are other things going in the downtown that we just can't speak to this point, so I apologize that I'm sure what's going on here? What's going on here? I'm going to say on the front end of it, stuff's in the works that we are continuing to work towards the progress on Front Street. We'll hopefully identify somebody looking to take on the project or take on a project there, and if we can get that out to the public, we will as soon as we can. Really what we can talk about at this point.
Great. Thanks, Dan. Quayson?
Yeah, I think some of the, I shouldn't say smaller things, but just looking at some of the small business issues, we awarded the last 5 or 6 of the small business Experience to Peer business recruitment grants to, I think it was like 5 or 6 businesses. We were awarded an additional $100,000 from the WDC, so we do have those. We have not received any applications on those, but we are working with businesses who are close to applying for those, so definitely keep the word out for that, that we'd have additional $100,000 for that. And that extends all the way to Highway 41 along Main Street, that Main Street corridor as well. So we have a couple businesses that we're working with there. And then we also, we've been working on our brownfield program. So that is something where we have a brownfield steering committee that we've been working with here in the city. We're looking to create like a formal brownfields program so we could do any sort of revolving loan funds to businesses that are looking to clean up their or remediate their sites for brownfields that we could put back into the fold for redevelopment purposes. We also have a revolving loan fund that we're working on as well here with the city that will be coming out shortly as well.
Great.
Yep.
Tom, I can layer in a little like preview of next year to add on. So at council this week, the council approved an RFP for 360 Main to go put that out for mixed use development. That is a site that the council, we all worked really hard to try to get an affordable housing project on. The scale was just too small to make it fly for us taking it on. So we're going to put that out for development. So talk to your friends and neighbors. Let's get a great project on that site. Also, we continue to prep for what will be a very big construction project on the west side, which is the Main and Reed reconstruction. To prep for that, utility work will be beginning, but also the public spaces that we're enhancing, i.e. The new alley over by Pages and Pours, and even the work you did, Tom, with your festival space nearby. Those are creating great third spaces that elevate the dynamic of that area in advance. Next year, what we're calling the Nicolay Alley will be under construction, which is that zone behind the paper mill. We'll be reconstructing that. We're also going to be doing the design of the area behind your building and just the alley portion to prep that for 2027. So we're working really hard to get the area around the street as ready as possible, knowing that the Main and Reed construction itself, it will be very disruptive, and we understand that. So we're going to do our best, but it doesn't mean it's going to be super easy. As we can hear with this noise, construction is hard, but it's always worth it in the end.
Yeah, thanks, Kim. And
Actually,
Scott-
if I could add,
Yep,
also
please.
just complimenting what Kim just mentioned. Next week, Thursday, October 30th at 8 a.m., we are holding a public information meeting for the alley north of Main Avenue. So that will be over at the Municipal Service at the MSC at 8 a.m.
Yep.
So we have already sent out invitations to property owners and businesses along Main Avenue that will be impacted, but please keep the word out for anyone else who wants to attend. There is a Teams link too, so if you cannot attend in person, please join virtual as well.
Yeah, thanks, Quayson. Kim, Dan, thank you for all the good work you're doing in our downtown. All right, we're going to move to item 7, which is going to be an overview of our 26 DBID operating plan. And there's the detailed plan via link in our online portal. But I've got just a few slides that I just wanted to share just to go over quickly, just to give a highlight, and then we'll just have some discussion before we make a motion to recommend this to council. So, yeah, let's go to the slide 4. There you go. So this resulted from a gathering in our June meeting where we went through all the existing priorities that were sort of 9+ in the current 2025 plan, and reviewed a lot of that and got some great feedback from our downtown members, and that really bubbled up into 3 objectives that we're going to include in our 26 plan. And you're going to see in each of these objectives that there aren't hard numbers yet set, so we're going to be working with Quayson and Dan and to look at how do we best gather those baseline numbers for the plan during the first quarter. So again, hopefully be able to review that in March. So this first objective is to grow the number of people experiencing downtown De Pere. Again, in the past, Tina's had a number of activities associated with that. We're going to sort of hopefully bubble up some of the top priorities and share that in March and say these are the things that the activities that we'd love to enter underneath this first objective, and use Quayson. We haven't done any kind of an update yet on Placer, but I know you're sort of going all in on learning more about that. But to be able to get really good data that we can use not only for our baseline, but then for measuring going forward. Also measuring events, short-term stays. We're looking at exploring a a pilot activity with Discover Green Bay under this first objective that's all about data and data-informed marketing. Like, how do we get people to experience our downtown? So that's the first objective. Second objective is to grow the number of people living and working in our downtown. Every coffee I have with somebody where we're talking about the vibrancy of our downtown and, boy, I'd love to make an investment or I'd love to start a business in our downtown, always seems to revolve around a statement of, boy, if we just had another 1,000 people living in our downtown, what would that do from a vibrancy standpoint? So this is going to be all about objectives focused around what are we doing to help encourage and grow the number of people both living and working in our downtown. And we've just started highlighting ways in which we could measure that. In the living, it may be in categories of single-family condos, apartments. In working, it may be the college itself, which I think that the whole college relationship, to me personally, is an area where we just have tremendous growth to continue to lean into that relationship and figure out how that can be impactful in our downtown. And then looking at for-profit, not-for-profit breakdown in our downtown also, but have some metrics around that to be able to say, is the work that we're doing intentionally looking at growth, both living and working in our downtown? So that's objective 2. Objective 3 is all about growing the value of our properties. So Gretchen, as you make an investment in our downtown of De Pere, our hope would be that we could actually measure, that's the initial investment we made, and the value of that property is continuing to grow, and what activities are we doing to help make that happen. These other 2 objectives will inform that as well. And this is where I think we've got probably some big work to do of, like, how do we best measure that? And I think it's going to be in some consistent mix of types and ages of buildings. So it may not be a flat, broad brush number of here's the value growth, but looking at pockets and types of buildings in our downtown, and are those investments that we're making in our downtown buildings growing in value. We can also measure that through lease rates, and again, I think we'd want to have some categories of that, but looking at are our lease rates growing, and then also probably the easiest one for us to measure is going to be occupancy rate. So that's sort of we boiled this down. We wanted to try to get it simpler. I think a critical step is going to get some baselines in place and then determine how we measure, and then work in partnership with Tina to look at how do we populate high priority activities underneath each of those. And that'll, again, be the work that we'll do between now and March. And so a big topic at our March meeting will be what are sort of the top activities under each of these objectives that will make up the 26 plan. Then once we have the 26 plan in place, then we'll just continue to roll towards every year building up priority activities for the year after. I want to stop here, just related to the objectives and some of the key measures, comments, questions. We reviewed this at our September. Ryan?
I'm wondering if we don't want to put in like percentages just because right now we don't have a baseline, and are we better off? It doesn't seem quite. It doesn't seem actionable, I guess, to have X and Y in. I know that we're going to develop that over the course of the next year, but I don't know if we want to throw a percentage at it so that we've got something in and we can correct it in next year's plan. But that would be my comment.
I mean, we can put in a percentage in there as a target. I guess the thing that I was hoping that we could, and I think this is going to get more, this isn't just an easy take the average of everything in the district, right? So this is where I think we're going to need to take some time to say what's an appropriate mix, that we want to have a baseline of, but then we can And that's going to even that question, we've talked about in the past, whether that's going to be I think we're going to want that to be a market-based valuation versus just the assessed value data that we have in our downtown. As we know, there's pretty significant divergence of that. So I'm not sure, Ryan,
Yeah.
how much more that would, I mean, I'm happy to put in our target would be,
Yeah,
what,
I'm-
3%, 4% increase, per year. But
Yeah, I'd even do, grow the number of people. Maybe it's 5% a year. Maybe it's 20% by 2030, and the number of people living and working in downtown by 10%. 2% a year. Maybe that's a little high, but again, we can come back and redo that. And property values. Possibly by maybe 2% a year, so another 10% on the property values. That would be my suggestion, but then in future years we get hard numbers to back that up and adjust.
yeah, my hope would be that by March, we would at least know what the X is.
Right.
Right? So that we would take the data that we could, gather from the city or other ways to determine the X value for each of those. And then we can do all kinds of prep between now and March to help give some guidance around what the Y is going to be. Right now, it feels like we would just be throwing out some numbers, which
Right.
we could do, but it's like, could we be more intentional about saying, hey, Ryan, could you help lead some work between now and March to help us have some more rationale behind the why? And then have a discussion at it in March, and then put a number in March versus now. That'd be my only thought, is
Yeah.
right now it just feels like we'd be
Oh yeah.
aspirational kind of target.
I think no matter what we put in there, whether it's a hard number or a percentage, it's going to be aspirational.
Yeah.
I mean, we want to make it something we have to strive for, and not just trip over.
Well, let's start with this. Do we all agree that we want to grow the number of people experiencing downtown here? I think we all agree with that,
Yep.
right? Oh, yeah. And same with objective 2. We want to we want more people living in our downtown, and we want the values of our buildings to increase.
Yeah, I think those goals are really good. I'm just wondering if there's a way to say numbers. I guess this is the same as saying, exact numbers to be determined.
Yeah, and this isn't like, oh, we'll figure this out in a year from now. I'd really like to take some time and effort between now and March to really think about each one of these. Would you be willing to help champion that?
Yes. Yeah.
Let's just,
So our first goal is really March, we identify numbers. Okay.
yeah. All right, is everybody okay with that? Let's do that. And Ryan, thank you and I'm happy. I want to work on this as well. So if we can identify, and I know Dan and Quason, from a resource standpoint, there's going to be data, so we'll be tapping on your shoulders as well. We'll pull Tina into this as well, so that might even be our small group to just say, let's lean into this.
How much of that would we have? Like, we have the visitors or the event type numbers for the last 5 years, right? Do we have anything that shows how our property values have increased over the last?
Property value increase, we can certainly get. That's
So
just
at least
the-
we have an
Yep.
idea
Yeah.
of over the last 5 years, it's increased by 4% to at least have, and then we have the numbers of the people living downtown, right? Over the last few years.
That one's the most the hardest one to get because we don't have the the number of people living in each unit.
You have, like,
If
units
we
per
assign a certain value per unit that would be attributed to a typical downtown unit, which is less than what you would see in a typical single family unit per residents per unit, we could probably make some interpretations that way or extrapolations, but that one's going to be the most questionable one. Placer can get us a pretty good idea on the number of people, but it's going to be placer based. It's going to be their extrapolation of the data as well, because they can figure out the data is pretty remarkable of what it can parcel. It can figure out who's a resident of the downtown versus who's visitors based off of the amount of time that pin has been spent in the downtown and the hours that it's done. So we can get some of that. It's just a matter of how far back do we want to go, because I think the data goes back to 2017, 2018, somewhere in there. We can go back and get a trend, and we can take a look at that. It's just a matter of it's going to take some time to pull that.
As we work through this in March, we maybe can chat about whether do we want that metric to be a number of people, or are we comfortable with it being units? As in, this is how many single-family homes there are. This is how many, and that's a cleaner metric to get, and we don't have to establish a methodology on people, and we can still see whether it's growing or not.
Yeah, I think you do the unit.
Yeah, that's the easiest one for us to track.
Yeah.
The other one that's also a challenge is working in the downtown. We can get the total number working in downtown. The challenge is going to be by industry. That's going to be our challenge, because Placer is just not going to give us that level of breakdown, but we can get a rough number in the downtown. So there is some nuance to what we can do easily versus what we can't do, and there may be some conversations that have to be had if we're looking for some of those major employers like the college and some other stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because with the increase of people living downtown, we can speculate based on the properties that are available to build.
Yep.
And what we've done in the past with the larger ones, because you're really not, with what you have, the older buildings, those really don't increase.
Right.
If you have 4, you have 4. So.
To me, this is a great example of wanting to continue to engage, the board and our partners with the city and our definitely peer partner, that there is work for us to do, and it doesn't have to be a huge heavy lift, but how do we do it in a way that is action oriented, and we've got tools and systems in place to be able to measure it, so it's not a heavy lift every time we're updating. So it just feels like that could be, with this as direction for our 26 plan, we've got some real activity that we can do between now and March to get even clearer.
I think what I'm hearing Ryan say as well, which I felt the same when I read the plan, right? Like, this is our operating plan, but then there's these X's and Y's in it, and it feels like a little like we forgot something. I think you could do one of two things or many others. One, for the purpose of the plan itself that we adopt today, you could just take that metric out, right? Grow the number of people experiencing downtown, period, knowing that in March we're going to assign numbers. Alternatively, if you really want to keep that in there, I believe you could approve with condition that the X's and Y's are determined by the bid board via future meeting by said date. Both of those sort of tie it up a little bit so that anyone who's reading it knows we didn't just
And I
miss
think
the
we
X and
actually
Y.
state that in the plan. So I'll go back and reread the detail of that, of the introduction.
Oh, maybe it's already in there.
Yeah, the introduction
Okay.
to these objectives in the detailed plan, I think, addresses that. But it may not be as specific to the X and Ys. We talk specifically about prioritized activity being populated under each one of these. So I'll go back and look at that, Kim, and make that clearer as the introduction to this. And then that gives some real teeth to preparation for March. And we'll lean into that between now and March. Everybody's okay with that?
Yep.
All right. I'm going to move to the next topic within the plan, which is under the benefits. This is also highlighted in the plan. Help our district property owners secure and retain tenants. Help increase the value of property in our district and help support and strengthen existing businesses in the district. So that sort of aligns with those objectives as well, but just also identifies why would we be doing a bid in our downtown, and again, how are we going to continue to measure that? So we can measure that through occupancy, we can measure that through lease rates and valuation, and we can measure that through the really good work that I think has been a good, and that is an annual practice, isn't it? Where we're surveying both east and west, or do we do that every other year? Do we do that every year? The walk?
The business walk.
The business walk is annual.
Yeah.
Yep.
So more of a qualitative feedback on strengthening our businesses. Any thoughts, comments on benefits? All right. The actual budget for the 26 plan. Thanks, Dan, for pulling this together. 215 parcels. 46 of those are tax exempt, 35 are residential, so those aren't included in the assessment. The remaining 134 are assessed at the $2 for every 1,000 in valuation. And then we have no more than 3,000 and no less than 275. So you can see that in the details of each property in the plan. That totals 155,518 and 20 cents, and we're proposing to allocate that 142,518.20 to definitely to Pere to deliver and execute on our plan in 2026. There's some administrative costs with the city support, and then I'm recommending that we start a new contingency fund this year, and we'll do some work on clarifying that fund. Obviously, the fund, nothing would be spent out of that fund without board approval, but I'm just feeling like every year we've just sort of pushed everything out without any kind of contingency at all. And so during the year, especially now as we get more active with this meeting structure, I think it's going to be important for us to have some contingency to say, yeah, that's an area that maybe wasn't identified in the plan specifically, and we want to do some exploration or have funds available. We've not had a detailed conversation around where that fund resides, or I'm just sort of right now leaving that up to the city to, based on this allocation recommendation, that those funds would be available if needed. Questions, comments on the budget? Okay. That's just the quick overview. Kim and Dan and I also had a meeting with Joanne, our new city attorney, who it's the first time that I've actually met with the city attorney in this capacity, so that was fun. She has tremendous experience with bid work coming from Green Bay. So that it just feels really good to have that kind of legal counsel at our disposal as well. So one comment that she made in our prior plans, we actually had our bylaws included in the operating plan itself. She said there's no reason to have that, and when we have our bylaws, if we need to reference them, they don't need to be in the operating plan. So that's been taken out. I did leave the sort of the state statute information around the bid in the plan just for reference, because I think that's helpful for anybody that's wanting to learn more about a bid and why a bid and how's a bid formulated. That's in the plan. So with that overview, the action that we need to take is a recommendation to submit the plan for approval to the council at their next meeting. And that's with me going back and making those adjustments to the three goals of the plan, stating that in the introduction of that, to make sure that that'll be clarified and identified and worked on between now and our March meeting. So with that, Any comments or questions first, or do we make a motion first?
I can make a motion to approve with the corrections updates regarding specific timeline to when we're going to add numbers.
And this is recommendation to approve by council, so we're not approving
Right.
today, so we're just
Oh.
recommending for council. So thank you, Ryan, for that motion. Second.
Second.
Second by Rich. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Our last item is adjournment. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
A motion?
Second.
Second by Kim. Thank you. All in favor? Aye. How do we do? 8:51. Thanks, everybody.